All right, tangent timer. This is not going to be a 2-minute tangent unless everybody's up and familiar. IDDSI. Mean anything to anybody?
International Dysphagia Diet Standardization Initiative.
That's what I was going to say.
That was exactly
Cindy gets one for
Good
being
job,
ready
Cindy.
for that answer.
She has a lot of zinger.
You want to hit the...
Well, IDDSI is a new initiative. Well, it's not new. It's been in the makings for a few years now, and it is an initiative to make our globe cohesive with our terminology and our consistencies. And it's been in the making for 3 years. There are several members on the board. They come from different backgrounds. We've got physicians, speech paths. I believe there's an
Flow chemist.
there's a chemist, there's a mechanical engineer, I believe a physical therapist. But all of these individuals
Doctor.
came together. I talked to Peter Lamb at ASHA this year, and he gave me a brief background on how it happened. And it was just some professionals coming together, comparing terminology. And it became very apparent that different regions within one country had different terminology and viewed different consistencies differently. So they thought, hey, why don't we come together, make the whole planet come together and come up with terminology that's meaningful to everybody. Make sure that it's color-coded so that even people who are colorblind will be able to differentiate.
That's a good
And have it evidence-based. Let's make sure that we're not just saying, yeah, that's a nectar or honey, because for years I would be at the bedside and I would be thickening a nectar, and this is how I was determining if it was a nectar or a honey.
Yeah.
And NDD had guidelines for nectar, honey, pudding, or spoon thick.
NDD.
National Dysphagia Diet, which was in place 2002 moving forward. And this is really just a continuum of. They didn't have real good guidelines.
Yeah.
So, and there's
The
a,
ranges for the viscosity for different things were so wide that,
well, actually, and it's, I'm gonna say, it's a semaphore?
yes.
The measurable value was 1 away. So if you were 350, you were nectar. If you were 351, you were honey. Well, that's not really, that's not meaningful to those of us out in the field that are, measuring. And how do you measure that?
Yeah.
So what Nancy's going to discuss is the flow test. And now we have a way to measure our fluids so that we know they're within the guidelines.
Yes.
And I know this very rarely happens, but if speech and dietary disability, or speech and nursing, or nursing and dietary, you can't come to find the love on whether a resident's drink is the appropriate consistency. Now you have an inexpensive, easy way to measure. And you can right there, right at the patient's bedside, determine, is it the right consistency or isn't it? And it's also designed, here I go, it's designed, the terminology and the methodology with IDDSI is geared for professionals, family members, everybody, a continuum from birth to 100 or plus.
Then we can do it in their home.
Actually,
Right,
how many
exactly.
fights I had
Yes.
with the kitchen staff. They're like, oh, this isn't thick enough. And they put more, I was like, stop, because we had to wait for
Yes.
the powder to set up. And then
Yes.
by the time it got to the dining room, it was
And then
concrete.
Another
Like, they can't drink this.
Another thing that IDDSI is addressing is forever, all of the testing was done in the kitchen. Well, sometimes a facility might not get Mr. Smith his breakfast with his coffee for 15 minutes or so. Then if somebody isn't there to feed him, we're looking at maybe 25 minutes or more. All of the testing is done at the bedside. So when it's at the time of service. So it could test beautifully in the kitchen. But then, as I just mentioned, it might take a while before Mr. Smith gets his tray, his coffee, his pureed, his breakfast sausage. You test it at the bedside. And if something isn't the right consistency, if you determine that the liquid isn't thick enough or too thick, easy enough, you can fix it. It's not, nobody gets in big trouble. It's you caught it. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
And it's all about quality of life and making sure that our patients, whether they're a 1-year-old or 100 years old, we want them to have the highest level of quality in the foods that we present them with, and make sure that the liquids are safe